So cell-to-cell movement of water through plasmodesmata is called symplast pathway. Transpiration is expulsion of water in the form of water vapor through structures called stomata. What are the two pathways for the transport in plants? One is called the apoplast pathway and the other one is called symplast pathway. Transpiration is directly proportional to the rate of temperature. Hello everyone, welcome back to session 4 of this chapter called Transport in Plants. Myself, B. Shobharani from the Department of Biology, Vidhyaashram Pre-University College, the Temple of Excellence. I think all of us know how important transport in plants is. So, this is a very important physiological process for the translocation or conduction of dissolved water and organic solutes. We all know two very important vascular tissues, namely xylem and phloem, are the conducting tissues, which, as we know, that xylem is a water conducting tissue, whereas phloem is a food conducting tissue. Moving back to the remaining concepts of this chapter called Transport in Plants, let us understand. Hope you remember in the last class we studied about apoplast pathway for transport of organic solutes, dissolved mineral solutes, and the other pathway is called symplast pathway. Now let us understand once again what is this symplast pathway. So as I said, there are two pathways. One is called the symplast pathway, the other one is called the apoplast pathway. So what is symplast pathway? Cell-to-cell movement of water through plasmodesmata. What do you mean by plasmodesmata? Here you can see the symplast pathway through plasmodesmata. So via root hair to cortex, cortex to endodermis, endodermis to protoxylem. So this is the pathway. So through cell-to-cell movement of water through plasmodesmata. Plasmodesmata are called as what? Plasmodesmata are nothing but called cytoplasmic connections. Cytoplasmic connections which connect one cell with the neighboring cell. So symplast pathway. What is symplast pathway? Cell-to-cell movement of water through the plasmodesmata. So each cell will have the plasmodesmata. Here you can see from the root hair. This is the root hair. Via cortex, it goes to endodermis. Via endodermis, it reaches the pericycle. From pericycle to the xylem, that is the protoxylem. So this is the pathway. So cell-to-cell movement of water through plasmodesmata is called symplast pathway. So system of interconnected protoplasts. So neighboring cells are connected through cytoplasmic strands that extend through plasmodesmata. As I said, they are nothing but called what? Cytoplasmic strands or cytoplasmic connections which connect one cell with the neighboring cell. And water enters into the cytoplasm by crossing the plasma membrane. So intercellular movement is through the plasmodesmata. Symplast, as I said, a continuous network of interconnected plant protoplasts is called as symplast. So what are the two pathways for the transport in plants? One is called the apoplast pathway and the other one is called symplast pathway. What is symplast pathway? Cell-to-cell movement of water through the plasmodesmata. Here you can see in the beautiful picture how the symplast pathway for transport in plants takes place. Then it is a system of interconnected protoplasts. Neighboring cells are connected through cytoplasmic strands that extend through plasmodesmata. Hence we call plasmodesmata as cytoplasmic connections. Then water enters into the cytoplasm by crossing the plasma membrane. Then intercellular movement is through the plasmodesmata. So symplast means a continuous network of interconnected protoplasts. Now, water movement up a plant. I think all of us know, for example, you might have come across tall trees like eucalyptus trees in angiosperms. Imagine how do the water rise up to such greater heights? What is the mechanism that is involved in the uptake of water to such greater heights? All that is something which is very unique in plants. So let us understand what are the methods that are involved in the process of uptake of water. Now, first one is called root pressure. What is root pressure? I think all of us know, it is a hydrostatic pressure existing in roots which push the water up in xylem vessels. So what is root pressure? For example, like in herbaceous plants, we come across the uptake of water through root pressure. So a hydrostatic pressure existing in roots which push the water up in the xylem vessels. So that is one mechanism for uptake of water in a plant. Next comes, what is guttation? A very unique process. I think you might have heard about transpiration. What is See, there are two terms which totally differs. One is guttation, the other one is called transpiration. Anyhow, we are going to study in the coming slides. What is transpiration? Transpiration is expulsion of water in the form of water vapor through structures called stomata. Like for example, 98% of the plants transpire through stomata. Stomata are nothing but the bean-shaped guard cells which is found in the upper epidermis and lower epidermis of dicot plants, more in lower epidermis of dicot plants and in equal number in case of monocot plants. So the process of transpiration is nothing but expulsion of water in the form of water vapor which takes place through stomata. Then what is guttation? Guttation is expulsion of water in the form of water droplets through structures called hydatodes. So the special structures that take place are called as hydatodes. They are called as hydatodes. So transpiration takes place through stomata, guttation takes place through hydatodes. Then the transpired water is is in the form of water vapor. Here it is in the form of water droplets. Here you can see the water droplets. So early morning when you get up, I think all of you might have watched this very common phenomenon, the water droplets that is found on the tip of the leaves. So that type of water is called as gutated water. So what is guttation? The exudation of water in the form of liquid drops up in the xylem vessels through what? Through structures called hydatodes. And hydatodes are usually found on the margins of the leaf. Hydatodes are found on the margins of the leaf and they are open throughout the day. They are open throughout, but stomata is open only during daytime and closed during night time. So one such is that is through root pressure. What is root pressure? A hydrostatic pressure existing in roots which push the water up in xylem vessels. What is guttation? The exudation. What do you mean by exudation? The expulsion of water in the form of water droplets. The expulsion of water in the form of water drop. There, transpiration is expulsion of water in the form of water vapor. And the exudation of water in the form of liquid drops up in the xylem vessels is called guttation. And guttation, as I said, the water loss in its liquid phase at night and early morning through special openings of vein near the tip of the leaves. For example, we come across in tomato plant, grass, etc. Here you can see the grass. You can see the water droplets. Next, what is transpiration pull then? I think all of us know. Like for example, like if you want to drink tender coconut, we use straw. So when we put the straw and only when we suck, then only the coconut water gets inside our mouth. So that pull what we create, I think the exact thing what we call it as the transpiration pull. So here, what is transpiration pull? As I said, water is conducted to greater heights, like for example, even in tall trees like eucalyptus tree. How is it possible then? There is no external force or anything that is applied for the uptake. But still, how come the plant is able to conduct water to such greater heights? The answer for this question is, it is because of the transpiration pull. We also call it as a negative force, right? So when we suck, there is a pull created and that is how the uptake of water will take place. Now let us understand what is this transpiration pull, which is also called as a suction pressure, which is also used as suction pressure or a negative force. So the upward conduction of water, that is ascent of sap through the xylem in plants can achieve fairly high rates, that is up to 15 meters per hour. So it can be conducted to such greater heights then. Then the driving force the driving force for upward conduction of water in transpiration is transpiration from leaves. This is referred to as cohesion, tension, transpiration pull model of water transport. So the driving force for upward conduction of water is what? Transpiration from leaves. More the transpiration, I think we can say the rate of transpiration is directly proportional to the rate of temperature. More the rate of temperature, more will be the rate of transpiration. Higher the temperature, higher the rate of transpiration. So this is referred to as cohesion, tension, transpiration pull model of water transport. So transpiration driven ascent of xylem sap depends on the following physical properties of water. So what is transpiration pull? The upward conduction of water, that is all the contents of the cell is called as what? Sap. Ascent means upward rise of the contents of the cell is called as ascent of sap through the xylem in plants can achieve fairly high rates, that is up to 15 meters per hour. So the driving force for upward conduction of water is transpiration from leaves, and this is referred to as what? Cohesion, tension, transpiration pull model of water transport. So transpiration driven ascent of xylem sap depends on the following physical properties of water. What are the physical forces that are involved in the process of transpiration pull? One is called cohesion, adhesion, then surface tension. So what is cohesion? What is cohesion then? Mutual attraction between water molecules. I think all of us know when we water the soil particles, the water molecules that are found in the soil particles will mutually attract each other, creating a force called cohesive force. And the water that is absorbed by the plants is called as what? Capillary water. So the mutual attraction between water molecules is called cohesion. Then what is adhesion then? Attraction of water molecules to polar surface, such as the surface of tertiary elements is called. Tertiary elements are the one of the elements of xylem. They are the conducting elements of xylem. As we know, xylem is a water conducting tissue. So adhesion means what? Attraction of water molecules to polar surface, such as the surface of tertiary elements. Then what is? So first one is cohesion. Second one is adhesion. Then third one is surface tension. What is surface tension then? Water molecules are attracted to each other in the liquid phase. So the water molecules are attracted to each other in the liquid phase. So these properties, all these are called the properties of water, which is very much responsible for the transpiration pull or for the conduction of water. One is cohesion. What is cohesion? Mutual attraction between water molecules. What is adhesion? Attraction of water molecules to polar surface, such as the surface of tertiary elements. Then what is surface tension? Water molecules are attracted to each other in the liquid phase. So these properties give water high tensile strength, that is an ability to resist a pulling force, and high capillarity, that is the ability to rise in thin tubes. So all these properties of water, may it be cohesion, adhesion or surface tension, is going to create a tensile strength, that is an ability to resist a pulling force, and high capillarity. What do you mean by high capillarity? The capacity to uptake more of water, the ability to rise in thin tubes will help. Then moving on to the next very important physiological process called transpiration. Transpiration is called as a necessary evil. Transpiration is called as a necessary evil. What is transpiration? Transpiration is nothing but expulsion of water in the form of water vapor through stomata. Actually, transpiration takes place through three very important structures. One is called stomata, then lenticels, then cuticle. Transpiration through stomata is called stomatal transpiration. Transpiration through lenticels is called lenticular transpiration. Transpiration through cuticle is called cuticular transpiration. But maximum amount of water is transpired through stomata. Very negligible amount of water is transpired through lenticels. What is lenticels? The ruptured epidermal cells is called as lenticels. What is cuticle? The layer that is found on the stem and leaf. So transpiration is nothing but expulsion of water in the form of water vapor, and we call transpiration as a necessary evil. See, particularly the stomata cannot be kept closed during daytime, because it has to be open for the exchange of gases. As we know, carbon dioxide is one very important raw material for photosynthesis. So in that case, plants need to keep the stomata open during daytime. And I think all of us, as I said, temperature is directly proportional to the rate of transpiration is directly proportional to the rate of temperature. So morning, I think in the daytime, the temperature will be high. So the more the temperature, more will be the rate of transpiration. Lesser the temperature, lesser will be the rate of transpiration. So we cannot avoid transpiration. That is what we mean by transpiration is a necessary evil. For example, imagine in case of xerophytic plants growing in desert areas. First of all, there is no water there. And with a little amount of water that the plants conserve or preserve, they try to keep it and they avoid transpiration. How do they avoid transpiration? For example, like motor cells of the monocot plants. The motor cells of the monocot leaf will help to roll off the leaf lamina, so that more they expanded the leaf, more will be the rate of transpiration. So if they are rolled off, then they can avoid transpiration. See how important water is for the plant body for various physiological processes, but the plants cannot avoid transpiration, as transpiration takes place during daytime through, so as I said, maximum amount of water is transpired through transpiration. But transpiration also has advantages. It keeps because the stoma is open, anyhow we are going to study about the structure of the stomatal apparatus. Because the stoma is kept open, the exchange of gases is taking place, and that is how photosynthesis is taking place. Then transpiration creates what? Cooling effect. Right. So there are both advantages as well as disadvantages of transpiration. So now let us understand what is transpiration. And as I said, transpiration takes place in plants through three very important ways. One is through stomata, which is called as stomatal transpiration. One through lenticels, called lenticular transpiration. The other one through cuticle, called cuticular transpiration. But as I said, maximum amount of transpiration takes place through stomata. So what are stomata? Here you can see stomata. This is the structure of the stomatal apparatus. Stomatal apparatus. So here you can see the two bean-shaped guard cells. Here you can see the bean-shaped guard cells, and this is called as stomatal aperture or stoma. And here you can see these are called as subsidiary cells. So these are subsidiary cells. These are two bean-shaped guard cells, stomatal aperture, then the microfibrils, and here you can see the chloroplast also. Chloroplast. So stomata, stomatal apparatus, you can call it as stomatal apparatus, consists of two bean-shaped guard cells and stoma, that is the aperture, an opening. You can call it as an opening. Then the subsidiary cells. What are subsidiary cells? The cells surrounding the bean-shaped guard cells are called as subsidiary cells. And what is transpiration? As I said, loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plant body is called transpiration. So how do we define the word called? What was guttation? Guttation is the exudation of water in the form of water droplets through specialized structures called hydrothodes, which are found on the leaf margins. So what is transpiration? Transpiration is the expulsion of water or the loss of water in the form of water vapor through structures called stomata, or maybe through structures called lenticels, or maybe through structure called cuticle. But as I said, maximum amount of transpiration takes place through stomata, hence we call it as stomatal transpiration. So what is stomatal transpiration? The loss of water takes place through stomata, which are the minute openings found on the surface of the leaves. I think we know there are two types of leaves. One is called the dicot leaf, the other one is called the monocot leaf. So dicot leaf, which is called as dorsiventral leaf, will have two surfaces or two epidermis, upper epidermis and lower epidermis. The lower epidermis of the dicot leaf will have more number of stomatal openings than on the upper epidermis. So it is called dorsiventral leaf. Whereas in case of monocot leaf, both the surfaces will have equal number of stomatal openings. So, right. So, the loss of water takes place through the stomata, which are minute openings found on the surface of the leaves. More number of stomata, which are the minute openings found on the surface of leaves. So, as I said, particularly the lower epidermis of a leaf will have more number of stomatal openings in a dicot leaf, whereas in case of a monocot leaf, that is the reason why we call it as isobilateral. Both the surfaces are one and the same. But in dicot leaf, we differentiate it into upper epidermis and lower epidermis. Upper epidermis will have less number of stomatal openings and lower epidermis will have more number of stomatal openings. So that is why there is also one experiment conducted for unequal transpiration, cobalt chloride experiment to demonstrate unequal because the more the rate of transpiration is in the lower epidermis than in the upper epidermis. Hence, but in case of monocot leaf, both the surfaces are one and the same. Hence the name isobilateral leaf. So what is transpiration? Loss of water in the form of water vapor from the aerial parts of the plant body is called transpiration. Stomatal transpiration, the loss of water takes place through stomata, which are the minute openings found in the surface of leaves. More number of stomata, which are the minute openings found on the surface of the leaves. So this is the structure of stomatal apparatus, which consists of what? Two bean-shaped guard cells, then an opening called stoma, and the subsidiary cells, surrounding subsidiary cells. More number of stomata is confined to the surface of lower epidermis in dicots. Hence, it is called hypostomatic. In dicot leaf, it is called hypostomatic. In monocot leaf, it is called amphistomatic. What do you mean by hypostomatic? As I said, the lower epidermis of a dicot leaf will have more number of stomata. Hypo means what? Lower. Hyper means above. So, more number of stomata is confined to the lower epidermis of dicotyledons, which is called as hypostomatic. In monocot, stomata are equally distributed on both upper and lower surface, called as amphistomatic. So, in the floating hydrophytic plants, the stomata are confined to the upper surface of leaf when it is called as epistomatic. In aquatic plants, as we know, the stomata are confined to the upper surface of the leaf. As you know, it is floating on the surface of the water. The rate of transpiration is determined by the number, structure, and distribution of stomata. Yes, of course, as I said, more the number of stomata, more will be the rate of transpiration. And more the temperature, more will be the rate of transpiration. So, even factors are there to affect the rate of transpiration. So, the rate of transpiration is determined by the number, structure, and distribution of stomata. The number of stomata distributed per unit area is called stomatal frequency or stomatal index. So, this might be asked. So, what is stomatal frequency or stomatal index then? The number of stomata distributed per unit area is called stomatal frequency or stomatal index. So, more number of stomata is confined to the surface of lower epidermis in dicots, hence we call it as hypostomatic. In monocots, both the surfaces will have equal number of stomatal openings, where we use the word called amphistomatic. And in hydrophytes or aquatic plants, the stomata are confined to the upper surface of leaf, hence we call it as epistomatic. And the rate of transpiration is determined by the number of stomata, structure, and distribution of stomata. As I said, in dicot plants, the dicot plants will have more number of stomata in the lower epidermis, means the rate of transpiration is more in the lower epidermis than in the upper epidermis. So, the number of stomata distributed per unit area is called as stomatal index, stomatal frequency or stomatal index. So, this is also one very important exercise for your practicals, for first PUC practical examination. So, you need to peel off the skin from the lower epidermis of a dicot leaf, and then you have to add stain, then focus it under a microscope and observe the number of stomatal openings that are found in per unit area, which we call it as stomatal frequency or stomatal index. The structure of stomatal apparatus, already I said, the stoma consists of, here you can see the two bean-shaped guard cells, two bean-shaped guard cells. Here you can see the outer wall is thin and inner wall is thick. So, it has to open, right? Then it consists of stoma Stoma means the aperture, or what we use the word called opening, and the subsidiary cells. So what is the structure of stomatal leaf? This, as I said, this is very important both from theory point of view and from practical examination point of view. So the stoma consists of two bean-shaped cells called guard cells. The outer wall of each guard cell is thin and elastic, whereas inner wall is thick and non-elastic. So here this outer wall is thin and elastic. What do you mean by elastic? Flexible. And the inner wall is thick and non-elastic. The inner wall is thick and non-elastic. So the opening or pore present between the guard cells is called stoma or stomatal aperture. You know, even there is a regulation of the opening and closing of the stoma. As we all know, during daytime the stoma remains open and night it keeps closed. So the guard cells contain chloroplast, as I said. They also contain what? Chloroplast. So they also contain chloroplast. So the guard cells contain chloroplasts that carry out photosynthesis. The guard cells are surrounded by the epidermal cells called subsidiary cells or accessory cells. So you can also use the word called epidermal cells, or you can also use the word called accessory cells. So what are the parts that are found in the stomatal apparatus? The stoma consists of two bean-shaped or kidney-shaped cells called guard cells. The outer wall of each guard cell is thin and elastic, whereas the inner wall is thick and non-elastic. The opening or pore, what we call it as stoma, is present between the guard cells is called stoma or stomatal aperture also. The guard cells contain chloroplasts that carry out photosynthesis. So the guard cells are surrounded by epidermal cells called subsidiary cells or accessory cells. Hope you all have understood the concepts what I have explained in this particular session of the chapter called Transport in Plants. So I'll be back in the coming session with some more interesting concepts of this chapter called Transport in Plants. Till then, goodbye and thank you.